Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Jamie. Today I'm here to talk to you about a brand new palette. I do a lot of different makeup reviews on my channel. I'm hoping that as you watch this video, maybe you'll consider subscribing to my channel. That would be awesome and I'd really appreciate your support. So today we're gonna talk about a brand new palette I was so excited for. So this is the new Tartelette palette by Tarte and it is called the Juicy palette. So it's supposed to have their Amazonian clay eyeshadow formula in here that they're so popular for. I think years ago they had their Amazonian clay blushes first, and that really was a long wear formula that they made extremely popular. And then they started coming out with additional different products with that same type of formula. And I think that's where all of like the Tartelette palette started stemming from. So now they're on with this new larger palette. They come out with these types of palettes pretty often, Tarte does, and the last couple of them have been colorful palettes and haven't really interested me. But I was really excited about this color story. It's very neutral and that's really right up my alley. I think the last neutral palette that they came out with was probably their Aspen Ovard palette was neutral. They did have the Tartelette in Bloom palette, but I think that this was before the Aspen Ovard palette, if I'm right. But anyway, we'll do some comparisons as well. But to let you guys know, there are 20 shadows in this palette. They definitely range in color, mainly in the neutral family, but there are a good amount of pinks, I would say, in the first row and coming into the second row here. What I love about this palette is there's a range of colors, but I definitely think that they are on the lighter side than the darker side, but that's okay. I feel like I do use a lot of light shadow, more light shadow than dark shadow on my eyes, but I know that's all personal. But anyway, I swatched these colors, so I will talk you through that here in just a second. I guess just to let you know, there are 11 matte shades in this palette. There are 7 shimmer shades in this palette, and it appears that there are 2 metallic shades, I would say. I don't have that all in front of me necessarily, but that is my guess after I've played with these a little bit. So I'm also gonna insert in just a bit after I do my swatches, I'll insert a tutorial of me putting these on my eyes. I do have them on my eyes right now, so there's a little sneak peek, but let's show you what the swatches look like. So the way I'm gonna work with the swatches is I'm gonna go across this pink row first and then across the other rows. So I will just name them for you. I have them already swatched out on my arm, so I'm just gonna show you what they look like and name them. So this really light one here is a shimmer, you can see, and it's called Water Lily. Then we move into Paradise, which is also a shimmer. Then we have Rose. And you can see these are just very light, I guess, I don't know, I would say that this is more like almost a warm tone pink. So 2 light shimmers, that warm tone matte pink. Then we're going into 2 other shimmers. These are darker pinks. So you can see this one here is called Orchid. And then this one is called Dream Chaser. And those are both shimmery. So that was that first row, 2, 3, 4 shimmery shades, 1 matte. And let's move into the second row. This is Wishful, Blossom, Wildflower, Petal, and Luscious. I really like this row a lot here. Wildflower is the only one that's a shimmer. The rest are mattes. I think that's a pretty good range of color. We'll move into the next row. This is Inspiring, which is a peach, if you can tell. It actually looks, so this one leans a little bit more peach and this one leans more brown. So Inspiring, Shine, which I would say that Shine's trying to push like a metallic formula there. Then there's Fresh Start, Dawn, and that's the other one I would say that is a metallic type of formula. And Charmed is this one. Then we move into the last row and we have Reflect, Happiness, Dusk. Dusk is a shimmer and Reflect is a shimmer. Yeah, Dusk doesn't seem to be shimmering too much, but it is. And then Grounded and Euphoric. So that is the swatch of all of them. All right, so quickly, I wanted to do a comparison of this larger palette with the Lil Juicy that came out in their holiday release. So earlier in probably November, Tarte released like a 3-palette holiday kit, and it came with mini versions of their larger palettes. We have a Lil Bloom, which was supposed to be a smaller version of their big, large Bloom in Bloom palette. A Lil Juicy, which was really the teaser that everyone had that this palette was coming, the Juicy palette. So let's look really quick at this Lil Juicy. So I was really surprised because when I saw this Lil Juicy palette, I thought that the larger Juicy palette was going to be this color story, which would be so much more pinks and purples. That's what I'm seeing here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of the shades in here are pinks and purples. So that's really what I was expecting, and I was really surprised that we did not get that with this. I mean, all we have is really maybe, let's see, let's count them on our arm, or on my arm. So let's see, pink shades. I guess 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 real pink shades, I would say. And I don't know, that just surprised me. So I looked through it and I wanted to show you the repeat shades. So these two, there's Flourishing and, no, there's Dream Chaser and Orchid. These two are the ones that are right here, Dream Chaser and Orchid. Dream Chaser, Orchid. So they're repeat shades. So those two are repeat shades, these two right here, and then this one, Rose, that's also a repeat shade that's in the larger palette as well. So Rose is the third one in this one right here. So, you know, comparing these two, there's only 3 repeat shades. You're gonna get a lot more purples out of this one if anybody has it. I don't think it's changing at all the fact that you might not want the bigger palette. That's what it shouldn't affect that. But one thing I thought was interesting was that this is the Lil Bloom palette, and I have to say, I think this has a lot more in common with this, in my opinion. So, and I'm not disappointed in that. I mean, I love the Lil Bloom palette. I loved the original Tartelette in Bloom palette. So let's look at that. And then these two. And then, I mean, I really like that Lil Bloom palette. And then these two. So I think that this one has some cooler shade options, and this one kind of has more neutral. I love this palette, so I am not upset at all about the color story that is in this palette. Okay, so now let's finish this up with some final thoughts. So I'm gonna move over and I'm gonna insert the tutorial of me putting this palette on. So let's talk about this. Like I mentioned before, I really like the color story. I think that I had big hopes for this palette, was very excited. Now, I just got it today, so I've only used it once. This is a total first impression. I think that the palette seemed to swatch okay. And you'll see in my application, I felt like the mattes performed pretty well in the palette, so I have nothing bad to say about that. I do think that some of the shimmer shades swatch really well. They feel good. They feel like a great formula. Now, I think my biggest letdown disappointment about this palette are these 2 shimmer or 2 metallic shades, and that I really was hoping would be more than than they are. So these are the two metallic shades that really stand out to me, because I feel like this Dawn shade right here is like, that's totally what I would wear on my eyes every day. And I do have it on my eyes. You'll see me putting it on my eyes right there. But I just felt like it was really crumbly. These two metallic shades are really crumbly. And you know what's interesting about that is I felt like earlier this year when when Too Faced released their yearly, the Naturals palette earlier in 2020, I felt like their metallics were really crumbly as well. I didn't have a problem with them. I think that they turned out really glittery and perfect on my lids, but the formula was really crumbly, and that just kind of is disappointing. Now I haven't played with them and like a setting spray. So actually let me get some setting spray and let's just play for a minute. So let's see, so that's it wet right there. Now let me put it dry next to it. Nope, it actually shows up better dry than it does wet. So let's try that again with this other one, Dawn. All right, so this time I'm gonna take the palette, I'm gonna go into this Dawn shade with this flat brush. Make sure I've got it all over the brush. Put a little setting spray on it. See what it swatches like. Oh my gosh, it doesn't swatch at all. I don't understand. Barely showing up. It doesn't really show up very well with the brush. Let me use my finger and I'll show you the comparison. No, that's the finger swatch. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't think you're gonna get a better payoff when you wet the formula, unfortunately, which just is really disappointing to me. I mean, it's not ugly by any means. I think it's a pretty color. I just think it could have been a little bit more. So I guess those are my final thoughts. Do I think that you should run out and pick up this palette? Well, there's a lot of good neutral palettes on the market. And honestly, I'm not sure if this is one that I would really buy. If you're looking for a neutral palette, I think that, hold on. If you're looking for a neutral palette instead of this one, I definitely would go for the Too Faced Naturals palette, the Natural Nudes. This is the one that I think is superior to this Tartelette one, but I'm interested in seeing what other people think about it. I like the color story. I'm sure I'll probably use the palette, and I did get a deal on it, so I have no big problems with it. I'm very pleasantly surprised that there's not that many pink shades in it. So anyway, I'm gonna continue using it and I'll come back and maybe give you guys an updated opinion, but that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.